baked sweet potato fried, sweet potato pancakes, mashed sweet potatoes, roasted sweet potato bread, sweet potato crunch and sweet potato soup, sweet potato pie and sweet potato candy. Good. All that deliciousness makes you want to plant some sweet potatoes. I really appreciate you being here. Today we are going to be planting sweet potatoes to grow sweet potato slips. Let's get started. The sweet potatoes is part of the morning glory family. They're not part of the Irish potato family at all. It takes anywhere from 4 to 6 months for them to mature after we plant the slips in the ground. So basically, growing sweet potatoes is going to be a two-step process. They don't grow from seed, they grow from slips, which you get by sprouting a mature sweet potato, and from that we plant the slip into the ground, and then the sweet potato tubers begin to form. So today we're going to start process 1 and getting the sweet potatoes in the soil so they can start to sprout. Now, over the years I have tried sprouting sweet potatoes in water. They're okay, but they're not as well as sprouting in the soil. It has been my experience in sprouting sweet potatoes by putting the potato in soil that it sprouts quicker and better and faster. I'm going to be using 3 containers to grow my sweet potato slips. I put some concrete pavers up underneath it to kind of get it up off the ground. Also, these 2 large holes on the bottom where the caps were, I'm going to cover those holes with weave fabric. I'm going to cover these holes up with this weave cloth. The next thing I'm going to do is put some leaves down first because my containers are somewhat deep, and just to take up some of that extra space, I'm going to put some leaves down first. Okay, so I've got leaves in the bottom of the container. I've got some native soil in my wheelbarrow. I live in Florida and we have a lot of sand in our soil. Sweet potatoes like the pH somewhere between 5 to 6. My pH is 7, so I'm going to have to put some acidifiers on to try to lower the pH. One way I'm going to do that is by adding some peat moss into the soil. So in this wheelbarrow I have about 5 gallons of my native soil, and I'm going to add to that 5 gallons of peat moss. Peat moss naturally is acidic, around 4.5. I'm going to mix this together very well and then add it to the top of the leaves. Okay, so now I'm going to just put some in my container here. Now it's time to add some water to it. Now I'm going to add some soil acidifier by Espoma. Now if your pH is good, you won't have to put a soil acidifier down. I'm just going to put like a couple handfuls. This is Root Organics. It's a NPK of 0.5, 6, and 18. I'm going to put a handful of this down. Okay, now and just mix it in a little bit. I'm going to kind of keep it on the top of the surface. I have 3 different categories of sweet potatoes I'm planting this season. These right here were my sweet potatoes that I grew last year, and I've kept them somewhere where it was cool and dark, and they're starting to sprout already, but that's okay. I'm going to be planting these this year to grow slips, that is. This is another variety that I planted last year. I forget the name of it. I ordered these as slips from a farmer in northern Florida. I forget the name of them, but they're white flesh on the inside. Then I went to a local store and bought some organic sweet potatoes, so I'll have enough. I'm going to be planting my orange flesh ones that I grew last year. Now, when I plant mine, I cover mine up completely. That works well for me. Sprouts that are already sprouted, they'll be sticking out of the ground, but the sweet potato itself will be covered with soil. You just dig whatever size hole you need, and you don't plant it real deep, just enough to be able to cover it with soil. And that's all there is to it. And you actually can plant these somewhat close together, it's fine. So I think I'll be able to get all of these in here. Okay, so I got one tub planted and I got 2 more to go. So I'll bring you back when I get the other 2 planted. All 3 containers are planted now, and I put a little bit of straw on top to help maintain the moisture. And I'm going to be bringing you back just as soon as they sprout. See you then. I'm back to give you an update on the sweet potatoes. They have grown so much. I'm going to bring you up close so you can take a good look. First tub, second tub, third tub. This is a good size to start pulling some of your sweet potato vines. You want to keep as much root on the vine as you can. Just kind of twist it and pull it. Try to not pull the potato up if you can help it. That looks really good. Have you a pail of water close by, because you don't want them to wilt, and put them in the water. And here the potato came up with these, but it's okay. We're just gonna put it back down in the ground. Look, that looks good. There's no rotten spots on it at all. It'll continue to sprout. Just put it back down in the ground, in the dirt, and cover it up. And put these in the water. Here's my harvest of vines today, and these are going to turn into our sweet potato slips. It's time to plant some more sweet potato slips. This row here I planted a few weeks ago, and so now I have given my sweet potato slips that was growing in the containers more time to produce more vines so I can have more slips. So they have grown some more, so it's time for me to harvest them and get them in the ground. These vines have grown a lot since I harvested them a few weeks ago. Once you feel like your vines are long enough to harvest the sweet potato vines for your slips, you just come down here at the root and just gently kind of wiggle it back and forth. You want to try to get as much root as you can. So that looks good. As soon as you harvest your sweet potato slips, you want to put them in some water. Okay, so now before you plant your sweet potato slips, you need to clean them up a little bit. I would recommend just snipping off the bottom here. See how this right here is trying to grow a potato? We don't want that at the beginning, so we're just going to cut that off. And then from there, you want to get rid of all of these lower leaves. Just pull them off. And just follow the main stem. And really all you need is just a couple leaves at the top. Okay, so we're going to do another one. Right here at the bottom, we're going to snip that off. Just follow your main stem, and all the lower leaves, you're going to just pluck those off. And the only thing you need is just a couple leaves at the top. In planting your sweet potato slips, you want to think about how you're going to get them watered. Now, they need more water at the beginning than they would after they get established. So this is the drip line system, which I highly recommend, and you can control how much water comes out and how often by putting a timer on it. After you make a determination on how you're going to water your sweet potatoes, the next thing to do after you have harvested your slips is to get some fertilizer down. I'm going to be using 2 products. I'm going to be using a soil acidifier first because my pH is around 7, and most vegetable plants do better if it's at least 6.5. Sweet potatoes needs more phosphorus and potassium over nitrogen. So the product that I'm going to be using is put out by Root Organics, and the NPK is 374. I'm going to put down approximately a tablespoon of a soil acidifier. Mix that in the soil right where I'm going to be planting the sweet potato slip. And I know where I'm going to plant it because I follow this emitter, and where the water's dripping out, that's where I'm going to plant it. I got this gardening tool. It just looks like a long screwdriver with the point at the end to make my hole. You want to try to make the hole as deep as your ground will allow you to, because you want to try to plant as much as the stem as possible. I'm going to be putting about a teaspoon of my fertilizer in the hole. And then I'm going to plant the slip as far as down as I can get it. And then just backspace the soil to press it down nice and tight. This tubing, the emitters drip water every 12 inches, so I know exactly where to plant it. So that's going to be a foot apart of my row spacing. I'm going to put down about a tablespoon of soil acidifier and just kind of mix that in directly above where I'm going to be planting the sweet potato slip. Getting my tool and just making a hole as deep as I can go. Put in about 1 teaspoon of my organic fertilizer. In my sweet potato slip that I've already prepped, I'm just going to put it down as far as it will go and then just backspace it. I'm back to give you an update on my sweet potatoes. So far they're growing quite well. The ones to my right I planted about 6 weeks ago, and the ones to my left I planted a couple weeks after that. Let's talk just a little bit about the care and the maintenance. When you first begin to get ready to plant your sweet potato slips, it is a good idea to go ahead and put down a low nitrogen all-purpose fertilizer at that time of planting. Then going forward, fertilize your sweet potato vines about once every 6 weeks or as needed. As far as the watering, when you first plant your sweet potato slips, they're going to need more water because they need to get the roots established. So watering them every day would be a good idea, and then after a week or two, cut back to water them once every other day, and then from there you can cut back to once a week. Here's some footage of my sweet potatoes growing, and as you see, I have put down some ground cover in between the rows. This is a sweet potato flower. I noticed about 2 on the vines. If you have found value in this video, it's important that you take a moment to subscribe if you have not done so already. And every time you give a thumbs up and leave a comment, it really helps out a lot. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.